Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's program. My name is David Matney with Nebraska Realty. And tonight we got a really important topic that's affecting a lot of home buyers. And, everybody's talking about high interest rates and rising home prices, but there's another thing that's going on that's presenting to be it's going to be a hurdle for home buyers in today's market in 2025, and that is homeowners insurance. So tonight we're going to cover four critical items that you need to know. Number one, why homeowners insurance premiums are skyrocketing nationwide. And two, how last minute insurance problems can kill a closing. And then number three, why certain homes and neighborhoods are becoming more uninsurable. And then the fourth thing we're going to cover, what buyers can do right now to protect themselves before making an offer. And with that, we're going to check the chat. Looks like we got MH08. He's in the house. All right. And the crowd is chanting, David, David. All right. And we got friend of the show and uh, Clark, the realtor extraordinary down there in Atlanta, Georgia. Welcome, Clark. Thanks for being on the show. And we have Leslie G. Greetings from Pflugerville, Texas. All right, terrific. And looks like Troy's in the house. All right, and James Clark is in the house. All right, James, welcome tonight. And tonight, what I want to do is I want to bring on my guest. Tonight, I'm joined with Chelsea Schaefer with NR Insurance. Chelsea is on the front lines of this insurance crisis every day, and she works with home buyers and homeowners to navigate the rising premiums, tighter underwriting, and fewer carrier options. And with that, I'd like to welcome Chelsea to the show. Hey, Chelsea, welcome to tonight's program.
Hey, David. How are you? Thanks so much for having me on.
I am doing great. All right. And we got Chelsea, and she's with NR Insurance, and there's her contact information. So if you have any, we'll put this information on the screen later on tonight. But if you have any questions about insurance, and then there's your website there, Chelsea. But thanks for joining the program tonight, Chelsea. What I'd like to share with everybody, and I found this today, and I was just shocked, and I wanted to get your input on it. Okay. And that was this right here, where let's see, let me let's sorry about that, gang.
That's all right.
All right, okay. Look at it's it's technology. It's
I know. It's
technology
either
here.
our friend or our enemy or both at the same moment.
All right, there we go. I want to make sure everybody can see my screen, but this, Chelsea, and I wanted to get your input on it, and that's the average. This is from Axios, the average annual home insurance premiums as of July of 2025. And right in the center of the old country is good old Nebraska at $6,400 for an annual homeowners insurance premium. That was just shocking to me, Chelsea. I don't know what your thoughts were. And then what kind of surprised me with everything going on in California that we just heard about, with all the wildfires. Now, probably a lot of those homes are uninsurable, but they were at $2,000. And then the other thing that was kind of surprising with all the hurricanes and everything, I was shocked by Florida not being as green. Green is, the darker the green, the worse it is.
Yep.
And I was shocked that Florida wouldn't have been higher than Nebraska. You know what I'm saying?
I know. Yeah.
Um,
The first
what?
time I saw a map like this, I was absolutely appalled too. But since last year, it's actually evened out a little bit, which is,
Okay.
sad to say that, $100 decrease on that average is, appreciated, but it
Right.
is.
Right. Right.
My thoughts actually were that Louisiana got ahead of Florida somehow. Normally it was us and Florida competing, which was kind of nice because we've got our winters and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So they've got beautiful weather. So it was nice to beat them at something, right?
Exactly. Exactly. But I was just stunned by that, as far as what, you know, talk a little bit about that as far as what is the cause behind it?
Yeah.
Why are we so far ahead of, why are our premiums so high compared to, Florida and California? What's
Right.
behind that?
Well, like the catastrophic losses that California and Florida see are, devastating. And
Mhm.
the amount of money that has to be paid out to rebuild those is staggering for sure. I think the main difference between those risks and the risks that we endure here in Nebraska is predictability. I
Okay.
think unpredictability is probably the insurance carrier's least favorite thing, an aspect of our risks here. A tornado, it can pop up, you've seen it in minutes and you have no control. You can't move your house. You can't, sometimes you don't even have time to batten down the hatches before you're running down to the basement, right?
Right.
These hurricanes we can see coming, wildfire fires, although some of them do start in populated areas, for the most part, they're going to be started in rural areas and they're going to climb and people have time to evacuate. I feel like the building codes and things like that in Florida and in California are much different because they
Okay.
are built, to withstand high heat in California, and they're built to withstand hurricane force winds in Florida.
Okay.
But our homes, we have building codes, we have basements, we have these fail safes. However, if a tornado comes over your house and it lifts it up off, the foundation, I don't know how you build around that unless we're just doing
Right.
concrete homes, which I don't think that's going to be a cost-effective way to build a house.
Right. Well, and then, lately, like last year, we had those straight line winds too. That
Yes.
was crazy. And then I think our home prices are very affordable in the Midwest, but I think this shocks a lot of folks who are relocating because it's
Yeah.
like, hey, you can afford, they're coming from a market like California or, New York, and they come to our market and they can get a lot bang for their buck in terms of the home price. But then when you say, hey, by the way, here's our taxes and here's our insurance,
Right.
then they're like, oh boy, and it's not like that, is going away. You got to have insurance. If you're buying a house, you have to have insurance.
Yeah.
And I think that stuns a lot of people. And I think the other thing, um, correct me if I'm wrong, is the other thing that is the big bugaboo is hail
Hmm.
and how, um, you know, that affects the talk about how insurance companies are approaching uh, roofs as far as age of the roof and that sort of thing. Can you kind of talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, of course. I will definitely dive into the roofs, but you bringing that up about the hail made me realize another kind of bigger thing that not a lot of people take into consideration on why our home insurance premiums are higher than a lot of other states. If you look at a population density chart for Nebraska, you'll
Okay.
notice that most of our population is in that southeast corner. So
Right.
we've got our Omaha metro and our Lincoln metro areas. And when a hailstorm comes through that is most of the insurance carrier's market share in Nebraska.
Oh,
And so when
okay.
they're looking at their loss ratios, which is how much money they're either losing or making on every dollar that's coming into their company, in 2024,
Oh,
it was a bad year. And a lot of companies were at like 150% loss
right.
ratio. So they're losing $1.50 for every dollar they're bringing in. And a
Wow.
lot of that is because their market share is just in this tiny little corner of the state. So if you have a
Okay.
storm that doesn't hit the whole state, but it hits our metro, but I
Right.
mean, for their overall pictures and how they're calculating their cost, it hurts them a little bit more in our state for that reason.
I I never even thought about that. But that makes complete sense though, because if you got, a state that's chock full of people all
Yeah,
in across the entire state, it's not going to hit the entire state. It's just, but like, you're right, it's going to be concentrated, and then yeah, that makes complete sense. And I didn't even realize that. That's a excellent point. And
yeah.
then yeah, let's see, we got some more chat going on here. We have let's see, MH08. I gotta say MH08.
Oh,
I gotta say it a couple times before the show just to practice.
it is a bit of a tongue tie.
He says, "Gotta go back to work tomorrow after 11-day vacation." All right,
Oh,
good
well,
for you.
that's going to be a
Well,
rough
I'm
Bo
quite
Monday.
flattered that you would tune into our show for as part of your vacation. So MH08, that is top notch. All right, and then
I hope that's
Les-
not an indication that insurance is going to put him to sleep.
What are you talking about? I'm like, oh wow. I'm like, he wasn't gonna. Okay, Leslie G says maybe I should pre-read the comments before
No,
I put them up. I feel for you, MH08. Going back to work after a vacation is hard. Exactly. All
it
right,
is.
and then I'm speaking of vacations. I'm taking a little vacation myself. I'm going to watch. Tomorrow is Husker football Eve. And so going down to the game to watch that on Thursday. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And then it was a fun vacation. All right,
Oh
terrific.
man.
And then Clark says that's the hardest when it's fun. All right. And then all right. And then MH08 says it was so much fun. I missed last Tuesday's show. No insurance won't put me to sleep. I love the nerdy stuff. All right.
Oh,
Terrific.
that's great. I love to hear it.
All right. And then let's see here. DL Daw, new to the program, she says many insurance companies have left California and some are uninsurable. And
Yep.
that's and do you see that in Nebraska as far as do you see like with the last year with the tornadoes that hit Elkhorn and Blair and Lincoln, do you see did any insurance companies pull out of Nebraska as a result of the storms last year? Did you see any?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that they completely pulled out, but they did try to recover those loss ratios like I talked about by tightening their underwriting guidelines. And then you'll also
Okay.
have insurance carriers that will just hike their rates so much that they kind
Right.
of outcompete themselves, if that makes sense. They'll raise them so high that the other insurance carriers that maybe their loss ratios weren't so high,
Okay.
they'll come in and beat them with rates. So that's kind of how they'll like ease their way out of the market, is they'll just raise their prices so high that they'll let the other companies take that market share. So
Gotcha.
that's kind of how that'll ebb and flow on their side. I will say some certain zip codes did have a little bit higher of insurance premiums.
Okay.
In California, I mean, I don't sell insurance in California, so I can't
Mhm.
speak to that too much. I do know that there's some legislation there and all that stuff. So that California market's real tough. I do know that for sure.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. And then Clark, hey, look at Georgia. Clark looks like Georgia is $2,000 on it's on the low side in terms of that's the lightest color there. So Clark, you get a little
Yeah.
bit home prices are a little bit higher, but Clark, you get a little bit of a break there as far as that goes. And then let's see here. True Soldier 82 says, hey, is a $5,000 dollar deductible normal now for wind and hail? Great question.
That is a great question. Yeah, we're seeing a lot of standard $5,000 deductible. That's another underwriting guideline that those insurance carriers kind of changed. We were, before 2024, when we saw those just consecutive storm after storm, billion-dollar losses, we saw them go from, having that nice $2,500 deductible to
Right.
5,000 being pretty much the standard. And then in some instances, and this is very important to know with your own insurance policy and to be asking your insurance advisor if you're coming to buy a home here, is there going to be a separate deductible? Because there can be two different deductibles. There can be one for your all perils, your theft, your fire, those types of things, and then a second one for that wind and hail. And that can be
Okay.
all the way up to 2% of that purchase price. So definitely be asking when you're getting quotes what your deductibles are and if there are multiple.
Gotcha. And you want to start that early in the process, don't you? In terms of when you looking at a home to purchase and you go under contract, you want to team up with somebody in terms of insurance right away so they can you talk a little bit about a clue report, what that is and why people would want to know more about that?
Yeah, so that kind of circles us back to that roof question that you had.
Okay.
A clue report is a good thing to pull. We'll pull that when we're running quotes and we have the property address. It's basically just kind of the insurance history of that specific property to see if there's any open claims or claims that were maybe filed and then the repairs weren't made, things of that nature. So it is always good to get your insurance quoted early on in the process, if not right before you get an offer or place an offer, definitely right after, before your inspection period is up. That way, you can figure out those things. If you're kind of curious about the roof age or anything like that, your insurance agent could potentially help you if that shows up on the clue report. Your realtor as well can help you, do some discovery on that roof age because it is crucial for your insurance premiums. If you're seeing a 10-year-old roof or higher, you're going to definitely have a tougher time finding insurance carriers to cover it. And a lot of times you'll see coverage at actual cash value versus full replacement cost. And the definitions on those is actual cash value is where the company will only pay out the depreciated value of that roof. So a lot of times in the policy, you'll see a schedule and it'll tell you, at age 11, we'll pay out this percentage of what it would cost to replace the roof instead of that 100%.
Gotcha. Okay. So just so I understand, let's say it's $20,000 replacement coverage. So if you've got an older roof, they're going to depreciate to where instead of giving you 20 grand to replace the roof, they're going to give you 8 grand because the roof is 11 years old. There's going to be a schedule that every year it ticks by, it's going to be that much less.
Yes. Yep. And it'll lay it out, black and white there for you on the policy. Always make sure that your insurance advisor is explaining that to you. You want to know if you've got that full replacement cost or the actual cash value, because that is something to take into consideration. And I feel like your coverage is all about having a good balance of coverage and monthly cost. You've got to know what your deductibles are. You got to know what you are going to end up paying out of pocket if you do have a claim, because that monthly premium being as low as possible sounds great until a tornado comes through and takes down your house, and now you don't have the money to rebuild. So there is a balancing act, and it's very important to have a professional insurance advisor on your side to walk all of those possibilities.
Okay, and that's where they can, if they needed someone like yourself, they can have that. That's where they would contact you for that, correct?
Yes.
All right, terrific. All right, and then let's see. Clark has a question here. Let's see. Clark says, yes, and the insurance is a little better down here, but it's starting to climb because of the recent disasters happening around America. So that can affect things too. So even, when something happens in California or something happens in Nebraska, that's going to drag up those companies have to make up that money somewhere, and they're going to pull that money from somewhere else. Correct?
Yeah. So this is always an interesting topic to me, because when I went back to when I was getting my insurance producer's license, they teach you about what insurance is and why it first came about. And the idea of insurance actually originated in Boston. And it was because they kept having house fires where they would have entire towns burned down. And so all the townspeople got together and they're like, we need to find a way to be able to afford to rebuild all of this. And so they got together and they created insurance, which is a way that everybody could pitch in money, and then they can all equally absorb the cost to rebuild, so that they're all working together, right? Not one single person is having to pay the total cost to rebuild their house. They've all pitched in money, and now they can rebuild everything together. That was the initial idea of insurance. And so when you talk about, disasters happening across the country and the cost kind of filtering across the other way to, absorb some of that, it is true to some extent. I don't think it's true as dramatic as a lot of people will think it is. But you got to think each insurance carrier. So if a carrier had market share here in Nebraska, and they also had market share in California, and they had that total lost in California, some of their market share could see an increase in Nebraska. However, there are carriers in certain states that aren't in other states. So it kind of does depend on how national your specific insurance carrier is, if those disasters are going to affect your individual premium. I hope that makes sense.
And that makes sense. And that's why that's why it's good to work with somebody like yourself, because you have access to multiple. You're not just tied to one particular company. Is that correct? You
Yes.
can go out there and find the best policy for that individual person, and you have a multitude of different companies available. Is that do I have that correct, or do I understand that correctly?
Yes, of course. We're an independent insurance brokerage. And so,
Okay.
yeah, we have in-house about 20 plus different insurance carriers that we can quote. So
Okay.
we know quite a bit about a bunch of different carriers, which allows us to really tailor that coverage to our client. We know which carriers like which risks and so on and so forth. So we can kind of, mix and match things for people, which is really helpful.
Well, and you're here locally, so when someone's relocating, they want to work with somebody who's local. That way they're familiar. You're well aware of our weather patterns and effects and things like that. And if they're working with somebody who's not, from maybe out of state, maybe they won't be aware of that. Is that correct? They might have to be licensed. They'd have to be licensed in Nebraska though, correct?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
where the benefit of us being local really comes in handy is when someone gets into a situation where they potentially have to file a claim. Our
Okay.
agency is huge on education. We pride ourselves in making sure that our clients know what they're signing up for, what they're getting into, and that we're here to walk them through that every step of the way. If you run into a claim situation and you call your insurance carrier's 1-800 number, a lot of the times you're going to get an admin. They're going to make a note on your account, and that could go on your insurance history as a zero paid out claim. And we want to avoid that. And so we have an in-house service team. All our agents are always available to you. So if you have a loss and you're not sure what to do, we invite our clients to call us. So that way we can review your insurance coverage. We can review your policy. You can know exactly what you're covered for. You can make an educated decision on if that loss amount is worth filing the claim. And we can also connect you with our network of local contractors and things that we've used in the past and had good experience with.
Gotcha. And you brought up a really good important point there, and that is, let's say a hailstorm blows through. Don't call your insurance company, call a local reputable roofer first. Have that roofer go out there and evaluate it, find out whether or not there's damage, then call your insurance company. And
Yes.
that is an excellent point, Chelsea, because that, like you said, they get that zero paid claim, they call that 800 number, and there's no damage. And then the next time they call, oh, you filed too many claims, and then they drop you from coverage.
And they're going to count that for 3 to 5 years. That'll follow you. So it's crucial. And you want to get, you want to get documentation, document everything as fast as you can. And you want to get a dollar behind the damage. So you want to call the contractors, you want to call the correct people, and then you want to know your policy in and out before you call that carrier. Because a lot of the times it comes down to verbiage too with these claims and why they're getting paid out. If you say one thing, like it was wind damage, but there was also water damage, they're going to call it a wind claim. And you want to be real careful with what you're sharing.
Okay. Excellent. All right. And then let's see. DL Daw says, so is your map stats taking that fact into account? Just curious. We live in Papillion.
Which fact?
I'm not sure on that. It was a little while ago.
Can you clarify, D, please?
Let's see here. Maybe it was dealing with, is your map just taking into fact that maybe, I'm not sure what she meant by that. I don't see, she might chime back in if she's still on the program here.
Yeah, I'd love to answer. So
let's see here. Okay. It's the producer of this show who's also new. So I gotta
You're already in vacation mode.
Okay. Well, we'll catch up with some other questions here. Okay, let's see here. A lot of other great questions here. Okay. MH08 says, question, does it make a difference if I buy a 40-year-old roof versus a 30-year-old roof? And I think that's the age of the shingle, correct? Like
I think so.
Not a 40-year-old roof, but 40-year-old, I mean, the 40-year rated shingles. Is that what he's talking about there?
I believe so. Yeah. And it's
Okay.
going to depend on if you're talking to a roofer or an insurance company.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
I would say as far as insurance carriers' eyes go, they, as the class 4 and class 3 shingles are, and that's just how the shingle is made. A roofer would be able to get into way more details on the difference between the two. A lot of carriers will give you a discount for the class 3 or the class 4. However, when it comes to that actual cash value versus full replacement cost coverage, unfortunately, the insurance carriers do not age the roof the same as the manufacturers age the roof.
Okay.
Because of, just their particular underwriting guidelines. The truth of it is they're looking at like that 10 to 15 year mark is when they're going to deem it as being actual cash value in their eyes. So,
Right. I mean, in Nebraska, a 5-year-old, I mean, they have a 30-year-old shingle. I mean, 30-year, the 30-year shingle. I mean, a roof in Nebraska is, I mean, it's old. I mean, it can get really old really quick.
yeah, there's a lot of wear and tear on them, and
It
that's
sure is.
definitely
Yeah.
a fact.
And let's see, MH08 says Adam Smith said you should only insure your home and your ship. Okay, I think we was talking about back in Boston.
Yeah.
All right, and MH08 says, question. So, are there regional insurance companies? What if I don't want to insure through a company that operates in Florida or California?
Yeah,
Good
I know
question.
that there are some smaller insurance carriers, there's larger insurance carriers, and there's some in between. So I think it's just a matter of doing your research and your due diligence. If you really don't want one that's going to be in Florida or California, then that's something that you could definitely look into. Like I said earlier, I don't think that cost share is quite as dramatic as some news stations and things might make it.
Right.
We're not really seeing anything that dramatic when something's happening on the coast here in Nebraska for sure. So
Gotcha. I mean, because ours are already high to start with.
right. I mean, nothing phases us. Is what I'm trying to say.
All right,
We're
here we
immune
go.
to it.
At Hernandez says, home insurance is a scam. My parents had State Farm for more than 25 years, not one claim, then dropped. They wouldn't give a reason in Sarpy County. Okay. And that's
Unfortunate. And that's why
yeah.
it's important, I think, to make sure that at your renewals, you're, proactively shopping, proactively getting in contact with different insurance advisors. And I really do believe that having a local insurance advisor that is an independent broker and has access to multiple carriers, they've got a lot of tools in their belt. And that way you've got that one point of contact that can kind of hold your hand through those things. If you've got an insurance advisor and you're not going direct through the carrier, then you've got somebody there to help you through that, to help you find the coverages. They would have got notified early on in that instance and been able to tell you, hey, this company's not renewing you. Here are the other options that we've got lined up for you. And we've got a whole team in our office that do that proactively.
Gotcha. Okay. And let's see. Leslie G says, I'm considering selling, and my agent said a selling point is the fact that my roof is only 2 years old and it has upgraded 30-year shingles. Hopefully, it'll keep insurance costs down a bit for a buyer.
Yeah, and your insurance agent is well informed. They must be a Nebraska Realty agent, or it must be David. Because yes, they're right. That 2-year-old roof nowadays is definitely a selling feature.
Yeah, that is.
And those class 3 or class 4 shingles that you've got there, those will give you and your buyer a discount for the next handful of years that will help them offset those initial insurance costs when they're getting settled in their new home with their new payment.
Okay, I got a question for you. I'm not sure how if you can answer this one or not. I don't know. What about solar panels? How does that affect insurance on a roof? Or how if they put them on the roof, those solar panels, how well do they take some of Nebraska hailstorms?
Yeah, that is a very good question. I have not personally run into that or any issues regarding that. The only thing that I know really on that topic is that sometimes the insurance will need an endorsement for those solar panels,
Gotcha.
or you may be working off of the solar panel warranty.
Okay.
So there might be a little bit of separation there in the policy. And so if you do have solar panels, that is definitely conversations that you want to have with your insurance advisor up front. You're going to want to keep those receipts. Anything with insurance, you keep your receipts, please, please, please. Because
Right.
that insurance carrier might need to get in a hold with that solar company, vice versa. That's going to need to be documented on the policy. So that would be my advice there. As far as like details of exactly how the policy needs to be written, I'm not too sure on that, and I'm sure it's going to depend carrier to carrier.
Okay. What about, how you see some of those flat roofs where it's like a rubber membrane, like covering a garage, or or you go to some of those older homes in Dundee and that sort of thing, where there'll be a flat part, and it'll be. Does the type of roof make a difference on your coverage?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yeah, whether it's metal, it's rolled, if it's got like a commercial roof and it's gravel, or wood shake shingles is kind of where we're getting some more sticking points with our
Oh,
carriers here, because
yeah.
here in Omaha we get a lot of HOAs that really love their wood shake shingles there for a while.
Yep.
Insurance carriers are starting to see that as a little bit more of a risk, and so we're kind of starting to run out of carriers that'll take it, and we're seeing a lot of
Okay.
those switched over to the asphalt shingle.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. And then let's see. Um, at Hernandez says such a legal racket. Probably true on that. It's like, well, but you got to have insurance, and I think what he got to really is got to really understand it, and
Yeah.
that's where the education piece comes in, because you can learn the hard way with that actual cash value.
Yeah.
Um, I'm I'm well aware of that.
Yeah.
I had a rental house that had actual cash value, and then lo and behold, it's like, hey, you pay a little more out of pocket on that one. But
Yeah.
all right, MH08 says, question: how long does a claim follow you? Great question.
Yep. 3 to 5 years is what we're seeing. So, 3
Okay.
years for sure. Some carriers will watch you all the way up to 5 years. What they're mainly looking for is claims of the same style. So if you've got 2 water claims in that 3 to 5 years, it's going to be a huge red flag to insurance carriers, because in their eyes, that shows that you didn't mitigate that risk properly. And
Okay.
you're being a little negligent is kind of how they see that. The unfortunate piece of that is with wind and hail claims, that can also affect you, but not quite as bad as fire or water, because they do see those as preventable risks. And so if you've got 2 of those, that's going to be tough, and we might have to take you over to the surplus market. So
Okay. Okay. And let's see here. Clark says, does the claim usually just follow the person or property, or does it go against both? Excellent question. Wow, you
that
guys
is
are
great question. It goes with both.
okay.
More so with the person, and as far as like the property goes, it's going to be like I said with like those water or fire claims.
Okay. And there's been I've heard of instances where somebody will wait, they'll go under contract, they don't get their insurance right away, but they kind of drag it out. They might get their policy late in the game, and then after the fact, after closing, the insurance company will drop them because of a previous water claim. Have you heard of that before?
Um,
And man, this could have been several years ago, but the
yeah,
lesson I take away from that is you got to get your insurance right away. You got to have, when you go under contract, you got to talk to your insurance provider right away and have that conversation and have that clue report ran and that sort of thing. So,
most definitely. And that definitely goes for the roofs as well. I hear so much about roofs from agents and horror stories, that they didn't know something was going on, or things of that nature. So yeah, it's always a good idea to get in there early and make sure that you know what you're getting into. Make sure that you know that you can get the insurance. I mean, we've had clients that didn't even realize that they had so many claims in the last 3 to 5 years, and
is that right?
it gets hard to insure them, and or if their credit history is a little bad, not favorable, that can
Right.
also affect their their premiums. And so it's definitely
Okay.
important to get in there. As also, you can get a discount too from a lot of carriers for doing early binding. So if you're 7 to 10 business days out from that closing date and you go
Oh,
ahead and get
really?
everything set up and ready to go, they'll give you a discount. And that's so easy to take advantage of.
Ah, okay, okay. And let's see here. And we got another question here. This is a great question. True Soldier 82. Do auto claims ever factor in? I never thought about that. What
Yes,
about that?
yes, they do. Your insurance history score is all
Oh,
encompassing. So even those
okay.
renters claims, if you've got those, yeah, any claim that you put in with any insurance, they all those carriers talk to each other.
Okay. So if you've had a lot of auto claims, then they kind of say, "Oh, this person." Okay, I never. I see.
Yeah,
I learned something every show. So
yeah,
that's great. Okay.
they're looking at you as a risk overall. So they want to see, that you've got a good credit history, that you've got a good insurance history, that you're only filing claims when they're absolutely necessary. I feel like a lot of people will mistake insurance for home warranties, and there's
Right.
a huge difference. Insurance is there for the catastrophic loss. It's there for when there's absolutely no possible way you could pay for it out of pocket. And I
Gotcha.
feel like a lot of people treating their home insurance as a home warranty has kind of hurt us all overall, right, with those loss ratios.
Right. That makes sense. And then MH08 says yes as far as that goes. And then Troy Beard says, as an independent broker advisor, are you getting paid by the customer or the insurance agencies?
The
Oh,
insurance carrier. So our
okay.
our clients don't ever pay us directly out of pocket.
Gotcha. Okay. And then this goes back to the solar question. MH08 says if the solar company is still in business.
That's
Okay. Yeah.
correct.
Okay. Oh, this is a good one. True Soldier 82 says, do insurance company depreciate siding as well?
Um, I I'm not seeing that quite as frequently. Definitely review your policy and the fine print. But
Okay.
we're seeing that more so just on the roofs because that's where a lot of the claims have come in.
Gotcha. Okay. And then let's see. MH08 says, I used to drive 50 to 60,000 miles a year. Wow. I was always amazed by people who constantly had accidents that weren't their fault.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's yeah, that I mean, all right. Let's see here. Let's see, we'll go back to my notes here. We've covered a lot of ground.
Yeah.
Um, talk about flood insurance, if you would. If somebody has um, can you talk a little bit about, because we've had some historic flooding. I think a lot of people don't realize, we have some freaky floods in Omaha too.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that and what's not covered and what is covered, and if there is a flood damage, how you're exposed as far as that goes.
Yeah. So you're going to want to make sure when you're going to purchase a home that you are checking the FEMA flood maps, making sure, checking with your agent to make sure that your home isn't in a flood zone. And if it is, make sure you're getting involved with an insurance advisor as soon as you can. There's FEMA flood insurance that you can get that'll cover you for that. And then we also have in our brokerage, we have a couple of private companies that provide that flood coverage as well. But yeah, that's going to be, if you're in that flood map, you're definitely going to want to look at that. And the coverage, I'm not 100% familiar with that FEMA flood coverage and
Mhm.
exactly everything that it would cover. So definitely I would just advise to, review those policies and make sure that you have it in place.
A few years back, I sold a home along the Platte River, and it was damaged by the flood, and they came through, and there's restrictions as far as when something is destroyed, whether or not they can rebuild or not. Is that correct?
I believe so.
Okay, yeah,
So
that's like that. That's let's see here. MH08 says I was dispatching coach business buses in 2018. The Missouri River was a mess, and
yeah,
that is a
that was
hundred
a bad
percent.
flood.
In 2011, we had that the Missouri River flood, and I remember the monument down there, where the lead smelting plant is, and the
Mhm.
guy's hammer was the Missouri River was up to his the dude was all the only thing above water was the hammer. I don't know if you remember that or not, but it was like
Yeah.
I was like, gee whiz. And then with the Platte River,
Mhm.
how that flooded, back in was it 2019 when that flooded the Platte River and the Elkhorn River?
I believe so. Yeah.
It's amazing. And then, it's just amazing. Even when you're in town and there's a heavy rain, you look at that Papio Creek,
Yeah.
that
Oh, yeah.
puppy
It gets right
fills.
up to the brim then. Yes, it
Oh,
does.
and it's like, and that thing is moving.
I know it.
And yeah, yeah, and it's amazing how it tears up I'm amazed at how much damage. I mean, how the street is destroyed. You know what I mean? You
Yeah.
think, you think that concrete, it's like, okay, it goes away and it'd be, a bunch of silt and stuff, but boy, it tears apart everything. I mean, it's just like,
Yeah.
and you can still see remnants of it when you drive along the Missouri River, how some of the trees are still dead and everything. That's kind of,
Yeah.
I'm kind of fascinated by that. But
I agree. I agree.
yeah, and I think that's, again, it goes back to the original premise, and that is you got to talk to your insurance agent early in the process. And your agent might sound like the agent is, your real estate agent might sound like they're kind of harassing you, but it's like, hey, there's a reason why. Because if you're buying a home in the Omaha area and you're during that due diligence period,
Yeah.
and you're doing a home inspection, that's part of that inspection process is,
Yes.
but the old days of, uh, you know, there's a hail damage to your house, and then, instead of getting the roof replaced, you got a new boat. Those days are over.
Yes.
You can't get a new fish. It goes they when they pay directly to the bank, or kind of explain that when you don't own your house free and clear and there is a claim, you're not getting that check. It's being made out to the mortgage company, correct?
No, it does come to the client. So, and
Okay.
then they've got to pay
Okay.
the contractor. So it does. I just had a claim on my own personal home last year, and so yeah, they paid me out, and then I paid my contractor out. However, your
Gotcha.
insurance carriers are going to follow that, and insurance carriers they reserve the right to do an exterior home inspection 30 to 60 days post closing.
Okay.
To make sure that the exterior is what you said it was. They're also going to be looking for, noxious dog breeds. So if you didn't disclose your pit bull, I mean,
Oh,
you're going to want to be careful putting them outside because the insurance carrier is
yeah.
more than likely going to find that out. But yeah, they're going to reserve the right to do that exterior home inspection. So if you've got your claim paid out and you're, participating in insurance fraud and didn't get that fixed,
Right. Oh,
then the
you're in a
next
lot of
carrier is going to come and find it because they're going to see that
yeah,
the damage wasn't fixed.
exactly. I mean, it's like, hey, it's going to catch up with you, and that's why that clue report is. Yeah, that's
Yep.
you got to get it. And and here's the thing too: when it's damaged, it's not going to get better over time. It's going to get
No.
worse, and
Yeah.
so you got to get it taken care of.
Yeah.
And then Clark says, how much extra is flood insurance typically?
It's
Very
not
great question.
as expensive as you might think. I think the last policy that I saw come through was around $500 extra per year. So,
Okay.
it's a manageable cost if you're really falling in love with the house that's in a flood zone and you're okay taking on that potential.
Right. It seems like we're having awful lot of 100-year floods, though,
Yeah.
or 500-year floods. I mean, it seems like we have a 500-year flood or a 100-year flood every 10 years, it seems. Doesn't
Yeah.
it? Is it just me, or is that just, I mean, I don't know. It just seems like we're having an awful lot of flooding.
I mean, I would have a hard time purchasing a home near the Missouri or Platte Rivers for sure.
Yeah, I would too. Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
just because I mean, you can get the insurance and all of that, but going through that process, I can't imagine that's an easy thing
yeah,
to go through.
that it, the house that I sold along the Platte, it was a really neat house, and it was, but boy, I tell you what, that flood insurance, I want to say for that one was like, and this was it was off of a recent flood, and I think it was like 2,300 a year or 2,500 a year, but it
Yeah.
was, I mean, this puppy was right on the,
Right on the river.
right on the river. I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
um,
And this one was in one of those, easier floodplains. So
I'm surprised they haven't. I mean, you know what? I got a question. I mean, why don't they make more metal roofs?
I have no idea. I don't know.
I mean,
I think the cost to put them on is more expensive.
okay, because I'm just thinking, man, I mean, maybe it's because it's going to be louder and all get out when there's a hailstorm. But I'm
Yeah,
just
I mean, that's for sure. And then I would say, as far as insurance goes, a lot of carriers will not include marring coverage, which is cosmetic damage to metal. So,
okay,
yeah, I mean, I would imagine that's going to be a sticking point if they were to go to all metal roofs, is you're going to have those people that are really particular about how their roofs look,
right,
and they might be absolutely functional. And,
right.
insurance carriers are going to exclude that marring coverage more than likely, unless you want to pay a premium for it.
I mean, I just saw, it's like, when I had, some rental properties, I'm just thinking, well, wouldn't it be nice to just have all just straight metal roofs, and then,
Mhm.
I wouldn't care if it got all dinged up with hail. I mean, it's like, is the roof stopping water from coming inside? I wouldn't
Right.
care what it looked like. I'm just like,
Yeah.
you know, I don't, I don't know. Okay, but maybe it's, maybe it wouldn't be the most sightly thing. Maybe it wouldn't be the most attractive thing, a
Right.
metal roof. But I'm thinking, well, that looks good to me. I mean, but
I
again,
know.
I'm not Mr. Fashion.
Right.
Okay, question. MH08 says, I've been able to get waivers on my roof in the past. Is this unusual? Waivers.
Waivers. Can you explain what you mean by waivers?
Let's see here. I don't. Okay, we'll come back to that. MH08 says, I live just a few blocks south of the South Platte River.
Oh, okay.
Mhm. Okay. Oh, what he's saying, no coverage for the roof.
Right. Right. Yeah. So that's sorry, that's what we see as exclusions is usually how they're listed on the policies that I've seen. So yeah, there is a possibility. Like I said, with those exterior home inspections, we've seen that instance, right? Where
Okay.
something maybe wasn't disclosed in the seller's disclosure and there was no due diligence from the buyer's agent or the buyer. And so, that 30-day mark came and they realized that the roof had needed to be replaced. And then the carrier can come back and say, hey, we'll still give you the coverage, but we're not going to cover the roof. So yeah, there
Okay.
are ways that policies can be written where certain coverages are excluded.
But if they're getting financing, that can cause a bugaboo with their financing, can it? Because
Yeah.
then they're going to say, hey, we, in order to, you have to have insurance coverage in order to finance it.
Yeah. And that's, when you talk about insurance causing a hang up in a closing, that's a really big thing, is those lenders
Gotcha.
have certain expectations for home insurance. And when we do the quote, we're going to do the quote and we're going to communicate with that lender. So,
Right.
we got to make sure that it's at the level that the lender needs.
And they're going to require, the lender wants to look at the policy itself. Do they not? They're
Yeah,
gonna
we send
they're
over deck
send it.
pages and coverages and all that stuff. So,
Gotcha. Okay. And then Leslie G says, please consider buying flood insurance if you live in the desert. I live in New Mexico, and while it doesn't rain much, the ground is so hard it doesn't absorb the water. The water rushes and rises quickly. Yeah,
that's good to know.
yeah. I mean, and I think that's an important thing because you'd think New Mexico and desert and things like that, but that makes a lot of sense. So it's I remember back in the day, Camp Pendleton, I was amazed at when we'd get us, this is Southern California, just north of San Diego. We'd occasionally you get a heavy rain and they had creek beds, and boy, those puppies would fill up. And it was kind of amazing how much they filled up there. Okay.
Oh yeah.
And then, but that's a good point, Leslie G. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good to know.
And let's see here. Um, and then MH08 says my house is so small it has made sense to leave the roof excluded.
Yeah,
Okay,
that
gotcha.
makes sense. I've had a couple clients do the same thing.
Okay, okay. And then MH08 says an inch of rain in the desert can easily cause a flash flood. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I
I,
didn't
I
know that.
I'm amazed at some of the flash flooding within town. You know, in the last 20 years, I've seen some freaky. We have this little creek
Well,
behind our house, and I'm amazed at um, how how much it goes up during a rainstorm.
I know.
I
Well,
mean,
down by like OPPD, in that area, it seems to flood pretty bad when we get
down
those
by the old
torrential rain.
market. Remember
Yes.
down by the old market where they had that one guy with the cell phone where
Yeah.
he was in an elevator and he's recording, and that thing he's up neck deep, and
Ah,
I don't know if he was live streaming or if he was just taking a video, but it's like, dude, you better get out of that elevator because there is no place to go.
right, right.
And that was and it was down by the old market, and I and some of those, I mean, it was like a river down there. I was
I know.
shocked by that.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, that is something else.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm trying to think of, um, let's see here. And again, if you have any questions or need to reach out, there's Chelsea's information. And then
Thank you.
if you need to contact me, if you're looking to relocate to Omaha, or have any questions or anything, feel free to reach out. You'll be talking to me. That's my actual number. And then actually check out we have a new website, livinginomaha.com. I'll share this with folks. Let's see here. And that sort of thing. So it's something I've been working on. So hopefully
Oh, it's great, David.
yep. And then here's your website. We'll show that. Let's see here. And in orange. Oh, I got to share the right. That's that producer again. Okay. Well, let's see. How about I get the right banner? And uninsurable.com. So if somebody wants to reach out or have a question, they can reach out to you and get a quote. And then I think the other thing too that's important that you touched on this earlier, and that is, with how home prices, how they have increased, to make sure that they upgrade their current coverage, because maybe their replacement is 300,000, but now that house is worth 400,000. Can you kind of talk about in that, if somebody wants to get a kind of like an audit and that sort of thing?
Yeah, yeah. Um, Yeah, I would say there seems to be a disconnect with thinking that, the cost to replace a home that's been damaged is going to be any different than building a new home. So when you're talking about a total loss and having to rebuild and make sure that your home is covered at a certain level, is you're going to need to think about it as your home is going to become new construction. And so those lumber prices, labor prices, everything has gotten so expensive since 2020, and it just continues. So definitely reviewing your coverages and looking at your assessed value, those types of things, having those conversations with your insurance advisor at least once a year is crucial. And then another tip that I'll give in that regard, for like contents coverage, is
Mhm.
a good practice that not a lot of us think about is to go through your home and take a video once a year of everything that you own. Because when you go
Okay.
through a total loss, you're not going to remember every single TV that you had, every single, small item, what was in your
Right.
drawers. That's a good way to inventory and have that proof for your insurance agent when you do
Okay.
come in the event of a total loss. So,
Gotcha. Okay.
yeah.
I thought of another question too, and that it was, I was down I'm doing an upcoming video, and I was down near the Gold Coast neighborhood and in Fair Acres at some of those elaborate old homes.
Hmm.
What about a historic home, or, you know, what's the what kind of a premium does someone who lives in an old historic home that's built in 1910, and it's one of those massive mansions down by Cathedral?
Yeah.
What kind of special provisions do they have to add to for something that's in this historic home type of thing? How
Yep.
much more is premiums for something like that?
It is going to be a higher premium. Older homes are harder to insure. So if you're looking at 70 years or older,
Okay.
your selection for insurance carriers that you can choose from is going to go down a little bit. And then you're going to want to be adding special endorsements if you've got special architecture that you expect to be rebuilt at that level. Or if
Okay.
you've got, some, correct me if I'm wrong, some homes are deemed historical by,
Right.
like the city, and so they have to be maintained, right? So
Right.
those ones specifically, you're going to need special endorsements, and things of that nature to make sure that you're up to code when you go to rebuild.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point. Thank you for that, because I just thought about that because I was down
Mhm.
there, getting a couple of little bit of shots of some of these homes, and I'm like, boy, those things are beautiful. But
Yeah.
boy, I tell you what, that would be, rough in terms of you know things like that. And then let's see, it says here we're wrapping things up here. Clark says, thanks Dave and Chelsea, it was a good show. All right,
Oh,
excellent.
thanks, Clark. Appreciate it.
All right, and then let's see here. Let's see. We Leslie G says, thanks so much, lots of good info.
Yeah,
Okay,
no
Tim,
problem. Glad you got something out of it.
and
Oh,
Tim's
Tim,
here.
how's it going?
All right. Okay. I'm like, Tim's new to the program. He goes, great show and info. Thanks, Dave and Chelsea. All right. And then let's see. Leslie G says, consider adding temporary living costs to your policy, but some policy may already have that. In any case, review the length of temporary housing, one
Yeah.
month, 2 months. Excellent point. Thank you.
Oh,
Okay. Oh boy, this one's a doozy. Uh, what about if someone is injured on my property? Oh, I got a story for that one. Okay.
liability coverage. Yes,
Oh, yeah.
that's important.
Yeah, yeah, I yeah, um, yeah, let's just leave it we leave it at that. But, yeah, but you have rental property. If you have rental property, it's not if you'll be sued, it's a matter of when. Okay,
Right.
and, I had a renter that tripped in the yard and was moving in, tripped in the yard, and lo and behold, I got sued, and thankfully the insurance took care of it. He wasn't hurt, he wasn't permanently injured or anything like that, but there are folks that you know, we live in a very litigious society now, so
Mhm.
it's a very it is one of those things. So
That's very important. And another
yeah.
caveat that I'll add to that too is to make sure that you have the correct coverage. If you are going to be in your home, if you're not going to be in your home and it will be vacant for 30 to
Oh,
60 days, make sure you have a conversation with your insurance advisor as well, because vacant home coverage is a little bit more pricey. But if you're not living in your home and you haven't been for 30 to 60 days and a claim gets filed for liability or whatever the case may be, the insurance carrier could potentially not cover that loss.
ugh, I was oh, this is another brings up another great point. I was helping a client and talking to this homeowner, and it was a for sale by owner, and he had an Airbnb downtown, and his insurance went from for an Airbnb. And I wanted to ask you about this, and this what really kind of I wanted to bring you back on the show, and I forgot to even ask you about this. Um, but he had an Airbnb, and he said that his insurance went from 3,000, and because it was an Airbnb, it went to 10,000 a year.
Hmm. I know.
And I'm like, so it's going to be very important that you're upfront with your insurance provider and say, hey, it is an Airbnb and you're going to pay the price for it. And
Yep.
then, but if you don't disclose that, then you're going to be paying the piper. Then you might not get coverage, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's important also, when you are going to be switching over to Airbnb, you got to think of it. Now you're a business owner, right? And so
Right.
if you're looking for home insurance coverage with Airbnb endorsement, that's more than likely going to be more expensive than going to like a commercial carrier or somebody that's going to cover you that way. So, yeah, I would encourage them to shop around. That's for sure.
Excuse me.
You're all right.
And then sorry about that. I kind of got a little bit of a cough here. And then Troy says, thanks, Dave and Chelsea.
No
And
problem.
then MH08, it's always great to see you. Appreciate your time. And then Leslie G says, sometimes an umbrella policy can be
Yep.
worth it. It depends on the coverage as it relates to regular policies you already have in place.
Yep. That's correct.
All right.
Oh, you're okay.
All right. We better end the show because I might have a little bit of a coughing fit here. So,
Oh, yeah.
Chelsea, thank you so much for being on the show tonight and taking questions and be willing to come back on the program. And again, folks can reach out and there's your website. And then if anybody needs to talk to me, there's my information as well. But Chelsea, thank you for so much for being on the show tonight. And we'll have you on again, I'm sure.
Yes, of course. Thanks so much. Let me know when you need me again and enjoy your trip.
All righty. Hey, go Big Red.
Go Big Red.
All right. Okay, everybody. Well, thanks again for always enjoy the comments and everything. And then if you don't mind giving the live stream a heads up or a thumbs up, and then we're almost to on the channel, we're almost at 6,000 subs. So if you can if you're not subscribed to the Living in Omaha YouTube channel, with it's Living in Omaha with David Matney, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate it. And then with that, we'll let you guys go for tonight. And again, thanks again. Have a great night, everybody. Bye-bye.